Welcome on in, Eagles fans, to episode 20 of the No-Huddle, our Philadelphia Eagles podcast right here on NJ.com. I'm Joe Giglio. With me, as always, Elliot Shore-Parks and Mark Eckel after a 23-20 win for the Eagles. Now back-to-back wins for the first time since week 5 and 6. The Eagles are at 6 and 7. LeSean McCoy comes home, but the Eagles get the last laugh. Elliot, we'll go to you first after Sunday's victory over the Bills, which was, it was a really entertaining game, back and forth, and McCoy looked like early like he was going to have a big day, but then, the Eagles really, towards the end, their defense, and they just made the plays, I thought, at the end to win this game, that they weren't making these plays earlier in the year.
Yeah, to me, the biggest thing was just the fact that they were able to put together 2 strong games in a row. I remember being in Dallas after that overtime win. Sam Bradford had the game-winning touchdown, and you really felt like the team was putting it together like, all right, this is it. Like, Bradford's turning it around. They just won a big game. This is their momentum. Then they lost 3 straight, and everyone's talking about firing Chip. So after they beat the Patriots, to come back and then win, a 1 o'clock game at home, I just feel like traditionally they've struggled with. I don't know why. I just feel like every time I watch them at 1 o'clock, they turn in an ugly performance. But to win that game, against a pretty good Bills team. I know their record's not great, but Tyrod Taylor's been playing very well. They have LeSean McCoy, and I know we'll talk about that later. But just to win that game, to me, just kind of showed that this team has taken a legitimate step forward because they were able to control the emotions of coming off the big Patriots game. Bradford played well again, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He played well, in my opinion. So it seems like he's kind of turning it around a little bit, or maybe has completely turned it around, because it's now been 6 or 7 games that he's played well in a row. But just the fact that they got the win really showed me that this team is ready to kind of make a push towards the playoffs.
Mark, how about you? What was your biggest takeaway from the game against the Bills? We can get into the McCoy stuff here, which, he looked early. He was making some plays, making guys miss. Looked like he was going to break, and he did have one pretty big run there. Looked like he was going to break a big one, but then the Eagles' defense really clamped down, and I thought when McCoy was taken out of the game, the Bills' life kind of fell out of the game.
Well, he had 2 big runs for the game. He had that 24-yard run that led to a field goal, and then he had the run when the game ended. He ran off the field into the locker room. So they were his 2 biggest runs. What I took out of the game was this. To me, this was the most complete game I thought the Eagles played. I thought all 3 units of the team played well. The offense, not great, but scored 23 points against a Bills defense that has been up and down. But I believe it was, 8 of their 12 opponents they had held under 20 points this year. So putting up 23, again, you would have liked to have seen maybe a touchdown instead of a field goal on a couple of those drives. But overall, I thought the offense, I thought Bradford played well. I thought his receivers, for the first time, couple drops, but for the most part, Nelson Aguilar, we saw him make a big play. Thank God, finally, Nelson Aguilar did something. Riley Cooper made a couple plays. Zach Ertz made a gigantic play that led to the winning score. Defense played very well. Held the Bills to 20 points, took McCoy. Like you said, his first, I believe, 10 carries, he had 64 yards. So he's averaging 6 yards a carry. That's pretty darn good. And you think he's going to have a big game. And then he did nothing. His last 10 carries went for 11 yards. So they shut him down. Sammy Watkins hurt him a little bit early, but then they kind of kept him in check. So, and then of course special teams makes the play of the game again with the punt, the
fumble recovery.
Yeah, Jalen Watkins hits the punt returner. He fumbles. Brian Bremen recovers, and that led to the go-ahead score. That was a big play there because it was close, going back and forth. You think the Bills hold the Eagles, pin them deep, hold them to a 3-and-out. The Bills are going to get the ball near midfield, it looks like. Instead, the Eagles get the ball at midfield, go down and score. So, I thought all 3, and I don't think you can say that in any other game this year, that all 3 units, contributed to the victory.
No, you probably can, or at least not many of them. And they certainly were good yesterday. The special teams made the plays, as you guys were talking about. The defense stepped up. The offense did enough again. And Fletcher Cox, if you're looking for 1 star from Sunday's game against the Bills, and then he's been good all year, but he was really, the last 2 weeks, I think Fletcher Cox has really taken an extra step. Mark, I know a couple weeks ago we talked about, who would be, if there were any Pro Bowlers on the Eagles. And at that point, Cox was having a good season, not a great one, but it does feel like he's taking a jump here.
Yeah, and especially when we were saying that the Eagles were 4-7, and it's hard to get. You got to be really good to go to the Pro Bowl on a team who knew at 4-7 they could have gone 5-11. Who knew? I mean, right? So, but if they win the division now, if they're right in the right there, Fletcher Cox, and he's doing it. Although he's got to stop doing. Well, who votes? I don't even know who votes anymore. Does everybody vote now? Because it used to be like the NFC voted for the NFC. Because I was going to say he's wasting it against AFC teams because they don't get to vote for him. But I think everybody. I don't even know. I think does everybody vote for everybody now?
I think it's a poll on NJ.com. I think that's how they decide it.
That's how they should. I mean, I have to admit, there's of all the things that involved in the NFL, the Pro Bowl is the thing I care the least about, and anything. I don't even watch it. but it's nice. They should just name a team and don't even have. I mean, because nobody cares about that game, do they?
So here's what I would say about Fletcher Cox. Like, I think he's a very, very good. He's a very good player. He's a very good player, but I just feel like sometimes he gets. I don't know. I'm not trying to sound like a hater right now. He's a good player, but I just feel like for some reason fans irrationally love this guy. Like, he's a very good player. He's probably the best player on the team, but he's not a franchise changer, if that makes sense. I think fans talk about. I mean, yesterday, Rex Ryan compared him to Jerome Brown, and
no. He said people were comparing him to Jerome Brown, and he used to laugh at that.
Right, and he said he's not laughing anymore. Right. So.
He's not Jerome Brown. But again, I would love to. Here's my thing with Fletcher Cox, and I think Fletcher Cox would agree with me on this 100%. I'd really like to see him play a 4-3 tackle instead of a 3-4 end. I think he would be. Then we would see what he really is. He might get 10, 12 sacks if he's playing. I mean, he would do a lot of damage. He'd be more Darius, maybe. He would be that kind of guy, a Warren Sapp type, Jerome Brown going way back. As a 3-4 end. He's kind of a lot of his talent's being wasted. Yeah,
I mean, and I know we're getting a bit off topic, but it's just like I still have people that tell me they wouldn't trade him for a quarterback. It's like he's a good player, but
wouldn't trade him for Nick Foles.
He's not going to carry this team to the playoffs. Put it that way. And I just think like during every game, it's like he makes a tackle and it's like the greatest thing in the world. He gets held and it's like the greatest injustice in the history of sports. And it's like he's a good player, but he's just not. He's not like a franchise changer.
Right. He's not J.J. Watt. And I don't even know if I wouldn't trade J.J. Watt for a top quarterback. But at least J.J. Watt is so great that you could kind of have that conversation there. Because, I mean, that guy pretty much carries a bad
He is a 3-4
Texans team.
He breaks the mold of the 3-4 end. Right. Although, I'll say this, and we don't want to waste most talking about Fletcher Cox here today, but the Eagles Billy Davis has been using more of that 4-man front with Vinny Curry. I don't know, Elliot. Did you get the snap counts from yesterday yet?
No, I didn't.
The boys in the basement didn't get that yet to you, because I mean, just from my naked eye watching, Vinny Curry's played a lot more. I mean, he played 52 snaps against the Patriots, which was a season high by far. They're going more. They're giving more of that 4-man front look with Barwin, Graham, Curry, and Cox, and that's helping. It's not just helping Vinny Curry; it's helping Fletcher Cox too, because he's being used more as a 4-3, 3-3 technique tackle, which that's really his. I mean, that's what he was drafted for. When the Eagles drafted him, they were still playing a 4-3.
Vinny Curry played 29 snaps.
All right, that's not as much as he did last week, but that's more than the 13 and 14 he was getting.
Yeah, he has seen improvement.
How many snaps did the Bills have? 29 out of what?
The defense played 78 snaps.
Oh wow, that's not that many then.
No, but it's also not an insignificant amount. So yeah, the 4-3's been more out there. Curry's been out there, maybe percentage-wise a little bit more. I guess that brings me to the question of I want each of your responses because I think there's probably multiple answers to this question. But what has changed the last 2 weeks? That's probably going to be the question everyone's wondering and thinking. How did they go from as bad as they were against the Lions and the Bucks to where they are now? Which I mean, these aren't franchise-changing wins, but they're good wins over the Patriots, obviously, and then a Bills team that was fighting for its life. I mean, you could look at Chip Kelly and the adjustments he's made, the running back changes with Murray not playing as much, or the committee now. Billy Davis probably deserves some credit. The 53 angry men with Lurie pumping them up. Elliot, where do you go? What's changed in your mind the most the last 2 weeks to turn this thing around?
I think it's two things, and I would almost disagree with you that they aren't franchise-changing wins because I don't know if Kelly would have been fired. I really, really don't think so. But if they lose these next two games, I mean, then you're 5 straight. Who knows where this franchise is heading? So they kind of were franchise-changing wins in a way. But the two things I would say is, first, I really think not enough is being made of the fact of the time this team got off between the Lions loss and when they came back to start preparing for the Patriots. I mean, the losses to the Bucs and the Lions were really bad, and they were. I think now looking back, we don't realize they were so close together. I mean, they were only, I think 4 days off in between them. They were in a bad place. The team wasn't playing well. They didn't have a lot of time to make the adjustments. Then you get that time off. The team gets to go away. All the players got to go see their family. It was almost like a second bye week. And I think it came at such a perfect time because, I've been in the locker room every day since the season started. And you could just feel a difference in the locker room when they came back from that Detroit game. The difference in the Detroit locker room to when they were back at the NovaCare to start preparing for the Patriots was just night and day. They just seemed like refreshed, like the weight of the world had been lifted off their shoulder. I think just getting away for them was really good. I think you've seen that the way they played the last 2 weeks. And then the other thing is just, the play of Sam Bradford. I mean, I've said on this podcast tons of times.
Wow, I can't believe I'm hearing this.
Yeah, well, I've said on this podcast tons of times, I thought Sanchez would be a better option. I thought he would play well. And he didn't. I mean, he didn't play terrible. I think the defense giving up 45 points certainly didn't help him in both games. But clearly he was not the answer. And when Bradford came back, I mean, he's got 3 touchdowns and 1 interceptions in the past 2 games. He made some big plays against the Patriots. Yesterday he had that interception, but it's really hard to kill him for that. But he's just been solid. I mean, he only has 1 interception in the past 4 games overall. So I really think he's been the biggest difference in terms of why this team has been able to string together 2 wins as opposed to, the massacre of those 3 games.
Yeah, I think Chip was asked about that when you guys were, with him right after the game. The Bradford coming back correlate to this? Is it the reason for this? And he, he basically said everyone's playing well. But Ellie, I mean, your point is well taken. He has played well. The offense has done what they had to do. And that pick yesterday, that we don't even know if it was a pick on Sunday, that's the only blemish he's had in a while. And I mean, we talked all in the beginning of the season about how he wasn't supposed to be a guy that turns the ball over. Then he was, and now he's kind of back to being that guy that he was advertised as. He doesn't really turn the ball over.
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. I mean, and the one yesterday, you can, that might have been
that
dropped.
wasn't
It was
his fault
close,
anyway.
but
Even if it was a pick, it wasn't. Selleck's got to either catch it or break. I mean, he can't let the guy just take it out of his hands like that.
Right, but no, he's played well. I mean, the touchdown pass to Aguilar, he steps up in the pocket, he puts it really right on Aguilar's hands. I mean, he's played better, and I guess this is, as you said, Joe, this is kind of what they had in mind when they signed him. But the question is this a guy you want to commit big money to? Because let's be honest, if the Eagles win 2 of their next 3 games, they win the division, they make the playoffs, and they win a game, now you're talking again about giving Bradford, I'll throw this out to you guys, $40 million guaranteed?
No.
I mean, something along those lines, right?
Nope.
So you agree with that?
No.
Would you agree with the number he'll ask? Elliot, you're going for like the number he would ask for, right?
Yeah, that number he would ask for. I'm not saying
he could ask.
Well, but I mean, look at what Ryan Tannehill got and what some of these other quarterbacks.
And how's that working out for the Dolphins?
No, I agree with you, but I'm saying if you're Sam Bradford and you're a free agent, right, and you just wanted you finished the season, winning, correct, but he's what 6-2 in his last 8 games.
Yeah, whatever. He's 8-8. The whole thing counts.
Well, he doesn't get count for those 2 games he didn't play.
8-6.
All right. Well, no, but all right. Well, Ryan Tannehill's never even made the playoffs. Sam Bradford.
I'm not a Ryan Tannehill fan. I'm not talking about Ryan Tannehill. Just because the Dolphins are idiots, you don't have to be idiots.
No, but it does mean that
the Rams gave Nick Foles a new deal. That worked. That was smart.
Right. Okay. Nick Foles got like $24 million. I don't know how much guaranteed he got. My point is, I mean, what do you think Bradford's going to ask for? He's going to ask for a lot of money.
He asked for it. I would offer him like a 3-year deal. I wouldn't give more than a 3-year deal.
All right. Well, it's like Chip said last week. You can offer whatever you want, but then if you don't get the guy,
well, then he leaves. He leaves. Good for him.
Okay, but that was my question. I'm saying,
I'm not going to go to the wall for Sam Bradford. I think he's playing. I'm way bigger Sam Bradford fan than you are, but I'm not going to go to the wall for him after one okay. I mean, he still has the injury history. I'm not going to do anything until after the Giant game.
No, right? I 100% agree with you. I wasn't saying I would.
Tomorrow, I don't care if he puts up 6 touchdowns against the Cardinals and they win. No, I'm waiting until after the Giant game because why rush? There's no hurry.
To go off Elliott's point of what he might ask for, what he might get. I mean, you look at the quarterback salaries in the NFL. I mean, almost no one of note outside of a couple make less than $20 million a year now, just because the cap keeps going up. I mean, Tannehill got 19.2 per year. Alex Smith makes 17, and maybe that's the kind of range Bradford falls in. But like that's
So
not
you
chump
said
change.
I don't care what those numbers. The big number is guaranteed. Elliott
Right.
said 40 million guaranteed. I'm not giving him 40 million guaranteed.
All right, but I agree with you. I wouldn't give him 40 million guaranteed, and
Okay.
I know he can ask whatever he wants. But
Yes.
I mean, you know how this. I mean, you know how it works. That this is how his agent's going to come
Oh,
up with the number.
he should ask forever. Why not ask? Can't hurt to ask.
But if one team is, I mean, it's not like the Eagles are be able to negotiate with him. Like,
Well, they
what? All
will
right,
be
so
for a while. They will be till March. I mean,
correct. But what if? All right, so what if it gets to the point where Bradford knows another team would give him 40 million guaranteed, right? Like, let's say it's the Houston Texans, or I don't know, like whatever, right?
that's a great example. Go ahead.
Because
Right.
they
Okay,
really
so
could
the
use a
Houston
quarterback.
Texans say they'll give Bradford 40 million guaranteed, and
They would be
you so
tampering, but that's okay. Go ahead.
and the Eagles have won the division and they've won a playoff game. Would you
But
let?
you got him beating Seattle, huh?
No, I don't think they're going to win a playoff game. But I'm just saying. All right, let's just say they make the playoffs, right?
Right.
And so you would let. I'm not saying I would or wouldn't. I probably would let him walk, but you would let Bradford walk over 40 million guaranteed.
I think I would.
You would. Okay. So this is my point. I probably would too.
Well,
But my point is,
how
a
many
week
years? I mean,
ago,
to give him 40 million guaranteed, how many years you signing him to?
Ryan Tannehill got 4 years, 77 million, with 45 of it guaranteed. And it's
And
basically a 3 year. It's basically a 3 year deal.
Miami Dolphins. That's what.
No, I agree with you. But my point is, and this is the overall thing I was trying to say, is if his value is increasing, it's not like 2 weeks ago when you talked to that agent and they were saying he might get top backup.
So, right. That's when he was still hurt.
Right.
And the agent I talked to said you can't give him more than like top with a 6 or 7 million a year because he's hurt all the injury. And don't think that's not going to weigh on teams' minds too.
But so that's my point. Has he?
The guy? I don't think the guy's ever missed a game. Or maybe
I don't think he has either.
yeah, that's a big. That's a big. Any team that even if you're the Houston Texans, we'll keep your example, Bill O'Brien, and you've fallen in love with. Wow, if we can only get Bradford, we would be great. Oh my God, we can only get Bradford. But somebody in that organization is saying, wait a minute, this guy gets hurt all the time. He's never played. He's played 1 year, one full year ever. So I mean, that's always going to weigh against him.
But I just think it's setting up to be where, I mean, you look at Chip, the GM last offseason, right? Mm-hmm. Overpaid for Byron Maxwell. Granted, you had to do it, but he did it. Right. Overpaid for DeMarco Murray. Didn't have to do that.
I don't think anybody thought that at the time. The guy did come off the 1,800-yard season.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is Chip has shown he's willing to hand out big contracts.
Yeah, he's not afraid of it.
He's not a frugal man. Mm-hmm. So if he thinks Bradford's his quarterback and Bradford says he wants 40 million guaranteed and other teams are offering it to him now, I mean, I just think the chances of Bradford getting a big deal from the Eagles has increased considerably.
I mean, look, it feels like after every game, at least the last 2 games, I should say, Chip's really praising Bradford. I mean, a lot of times that's coach speak, but at the same time, he's also the GM. I mean, what did he say on Sunday? He's playing great.
Turned it around. And I'm all about it. Here's what I think happened, to be honest with you. I think, and nothing against Mark Sanchez is a good guy. I thought he would play better than he did too. But I think when Sanchez lost the Dolphins game, I think the team said, "Oh Jesus!" When he threw that, if they would have lost on a missed field goal, they would have lost on a fumble, anything. But they lost because Sanchez threw that interception. And again, it's not just one play loses the game, but that was the one that stuck out. And I kind of think the players just went in with like, "Oh no," and I think they were just and then they get rolled over by Tampa Bay. And then like Elliott said, 3 days later, they got to play again on the road. Thanksgiving Day is always a tough, road trip for a team. I mean, I know they played great the year before in Dallas with Sanchez, but it just steamrolled them. And they hit rock bottom. I mean, after that Lions game, they couldn't get any lower than that. And I think the combination of I've seen teams do 2 things when they hit a low point like that. You either bounce back or you just fall apart. And this team was too good to really just fall apart, I think. I mean, I never thought this was a great team. I still think I've said from day one they're the best team in the NFC East, and I still think that. Not that that's a great prize at this point, but I still think they're the best team in the NFC East. So they bounced back, and getting their leader back, getting their quarterback back at that time it was like a perfect storm. I mean, it all came together for him in that, they hit a low point. They're playing the Patriots where nobody gave him a chance. Bradford comes back, and all that game was crazy. It all went their way. Now they play a Bills team, like you said. Bills aren't great, but I think the Bills are better than the Lions and the Bucks and the Dolphins. The Bills are better than the three teams that beat the Eagles, and then to beat them, now the Cardinals are going to be real tough. I don't know if they can beat the Cardinals, but we'll see what happens.
That's I guess that's what I'm saying is it's just setting up where it's just funny to think how 2 weeks ago on this podcast we're talking about, you definitely don't re-sign Sam Bradford. You probably take general manager duties away from Chip. I don't think either of us ever thought they should fire him. I mean, that was silly, but just things have changed so much in the past 2 weeks. And
I would just worry. I'd be real leery of. I mean, and again, I think Bradford's playing great. I do, but not great. He's playing very good. He is what he is. He's playing at his. I don't think you get any better. I don't think Sam Bradford can play any better than he has from the Dallas game, the Miami game, and the New England Buffalo game. I don't think he can play any better than that. I don't think you see a rise in him. I don't think he's a rising. This is what he is. Don't be happy you're getting what you're getting from him. He's never in his career played this well.
Would you take Colin Kaepernick over him?
A month ago, I wouldn't even have thought twice. Now I don't know. I don't know.
I still think I would, but
I definitely would.
Yeah, I mean, but if Bradford, like you're saying, if Bradford keeps playing well and they go to the playoffs, I think the likelihood of that happening is probably it lessens every game.
I just don't think, and I think this is kind of what you were trying to say, Mark. I just don't think Bradford is special, and I don't think you pay $40 million.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right,
just because the Dolphins. Don't give me the Dolphins. They might be there is other than the Rams. They're as bad a franchise as there is in football right now.
Right. So,
when was the last time they made the playoffs?
It's been a long time.
Tannehill got there, I can tell you that.
09 maybe. It's been a long time. 08, yeah, it's been a while.
They're a mess, the Dolphins.
I just think you could put another person in. It wouldn't be hard to find another Bradford, I guess is my point, where you don't have to pay, like if you got a rookie, I mean, I know the rookie class isn't good, but I just don't think Bradford's a guy you have to give franchise money to.
Right.
I mean,
now you've come back to that's what when you said $40 million. That's why I said no.
No, but I never said I would give him $40 million.
Oh, okay.
I was saying that's what the negotiations are probably going to start at, and I wouldn't be surprised if another team did it because, like you're saying, there are bad franchises out there.
Well, if another team wants to do it, I say, hey Sam, congratulations, good luck. Don't spend it all in one place.
Well, then what do the Eagles do?
Back to Colin Kaepernick.
Well, but that's the tough part is you get into is it's going to be tough to rationalize letting the quarterback walk.
Not for $40 million, it wouldn't be. Fans aren't sold on Sam Bradford yet. I still don't see a lot of Bradford.
I think that's changing. I mean, imagine the hysteria there's going to be if there's a playoff game here, and God forbid they beat the Seahawks.
Now that's a different animal. Winning a playoff game and just going to the playoffs is two different animals. Yeah.
All right, let's say they beat the Seahawks in the first round of the playoffs.
No. Then what do they do the second round of the playoffs? Can they go?
Well, at a certain point, so let's just say they win the first round of the playoffs. Would you give them $40 million then?
I mean, one game really shouldn't.
That's kind of my point. I mean, I agree and disagree with that.
But at the same time, to go what you said, Elliot, I mean, if Sam Bradford, if they win 2 out of the next 3, if they win the last 2, that would clinch the division. Or if they win all 3 and then beat Seattle, the city would go crazy if they let that quarterback walk away. It's one thing they traded McNabb off a playoff appearance, but he was older. They were done with him. They wanted to move on.
People had turned on McNabb long before that.
Right, but
I can't
remember the last time a playoff winning quarterback, a quarterback that won a playoff game, walked away. Jeff Garcia. Okay, but when he wasn't,
people were pissed. People got mad.
And also he wasn't the starter anyway.
No, but I'm saying, but if you remember back then, Joe, I don't know if you're old enough. Elliot, I know you don't remember yesterday. But no, I mean, people wanted them to keep Garcia.
Yeah, I remember that a little bit.
A lot of people were upset that they let Garcia walk.
So, do they let Bradford walk?
If he does all that, I don't think you're right. No.
All right. It's two different questions. I feel like we're getting them mixed up.
And maybe you franchise tag him.
First is, do we think the Eagles would? What do we think the Eagles would do if they make the playoffs?
I'm starting to get the feeling he's going to be here next year.
Yeah, I do too.
I get that feeling as well.
The guy, here's my. I don't. None of us know Bradford that well. He's only been here less than a year, and he's kind of, I mean, while he's a
I think
very
his
good
teammates would probably say the same thing about that.
What's that? Yeah, exactly. He's not the kind of guy like and the quarterbacks that I've covered. I got to know Donovan because I was around him for so long, and he was just around more. And for better or worse, I knew a lot about Donovan. Sam is very. I mean, he's great in his press conferences. I couldn't ask for better. Of all the quarterbacks, he's right there at the top. But I don't know what he's thinking. I have no idea. Like I keep saying from day one, the Eagles could offer him $60 million. He might say, "I'm out of here. I don't like it here. I'm going to go sign with Houston because it's closer to Oklahoma." You know what I'm saying? We don't know what he thinks. It's a two-way street.
That being said,
he didn't ask to come here. He didn't sign here as a free agent where he got the pick and said, "Oh, I want to go to Philadelphia." He got sent here by the Rams in a trade.
So, but we're all in agreement. We're all in agreement that if they make the playoffs, we're all pretty confident the Eagles will try to bring him back. They will be willing to pay to bring him back. Do we agree with that?
I think so. Especially if he plays down the stretch here, Arizona, Washington, the Giants, like he has. I mean, none of us expect him to go out there and suddenly be, Peyton Manning in his prime, like we've been saying. But if he plays like this, I think they're gonna,
So then the next question is, if we all agree that the Eagles would do it, would we individually do it? I'm not so sure I would, but I don't know if I would kill him if they did.
I'm telling you, I would offer him a short-term deal,
but
he might say no.
And you're willing to lose him over that?
I don't know. I don't want to.
I know.
I don't want to lose him. No, but I lost Jeremy Maclin over $1 million, right? I mean,
and that ended up hurting you.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying. Sometimes you have to draw the line.
Yeah, you do. I mean, this kind of illustrates why Chip Kelly's job is pretty hard and what he has to do here.
And again, we don't know and this is very important that we keep just brushing over. There might not be anything the Eagles can offer Bradford to keep him. Bradford isn't hurting for money. The man's made $86 million, and he doesn't look like he's a big spendthrift. He looks like he lives a pretty modest lifestyle. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but I would think if Bradford if he makes the playoffs, this will be the most success he's had in his career. I mean,
yes.
You would have to think that there would be a part of him that would say, all right, I finally have a chance to win in the NFL level. I mean, I understand. I agree with you. He maybe isn't thrilled here, but I would think that, he would get over that. First of all, for $40 million, I would think he would get over that. But second of all, I would think that just he would want to stay and compete. As to where you go to Houston, maybe you can talk yourself into that a little bit, but they are not going to be coming off anything special.
They might win their division
without a quarterback.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. I guess
they might.
The Eagles are they're both sub 500 teams in a bad division, and again, we just don't know. Listen, he didn't come here on the best of terms, right?
Right.
He got traded here. He comes here, and they won't even sell his jersey because everybody thinks they're trying to get Mariota with him.
I forgot about that. It was fun.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, all he heard the first 2 months he was here was Mariota. All right? Then, okay, the draft comes, they're not getting Mariota. All right, so at least that's out of the picture now. Then he has to be compared to that bum Foles. Oh, we should have kept Nick Foles. Foles stinks. Case Keenum's better than Nick Foles. So
Foles had a better career than Bradford, though.
He had a better 8 games. He's Don Brown, all right?
All right, I'm just saying. I mean,
he had a better 8 games.
He was better for those 8 games than Bradford has been over the years.
How's he doing?
I'm just saying, though.
Who's playing better today?
Yeah,
Bradford obviously.
Thank you. Nick Foles stinks. Period. He had 8 good games. He's living on the corner of Kevin Cobb Boulevard and Bobby Hoying Way. What he is. All right. So enough Foles. So, but I'm saying in Bradford's mind, he's like, man, no one's ever said, "Hey, Sam, great to have you." No, never. Right?
He'll be in a position of power for the first time.
Yes,
definitely.
He'd say, "Hey, Eagles, go get Mariota. I'm out of here. Bring Foles back."
So we've got 3 games to go in the season. Then all this Bradford stuff will probably occupy so much of the offseason, whether they win or they lose or whatever they do over the next 3 games.
All right, let me ask this. Let's throw one more crazy scenario out there since we're doing this.
Let's do it.
They win 2 of the 3 or all 3, and they look, okay, and they go and they play Seattle or whoever in the first round of the playoffs, and Bradford's bad. The bad Sam Bradford comes back. He no touchdowns, 2 or 3 picks.
Then
you
lose definitely don't sign him.
Then you don't sign him.
Here's the thing.
Based off one game.
Before the Patriots game, I wrote that the Eagles can't let these next 5 games influence trick them, right? Like it would be so much like Sam Bradford have a really good 5 games right before he's a free agent, cash in on the contract, you know what I mean, and then regress. But now I find myself getting tricked. So I understand why it's hard to make a decision. But if he plays like the level he is right now for the next 3 games, where he's good,
right.
he's
I'm saying
very
that.
good.
He does that.
He's not great,
And
right? And then he's bad against Seattle. Yeah. I think you strongly assess what else is out there. If there's really nothing else, I like Colin Kaepernick.
Nothing's going to come out there. Then it isn't out there now. You know what's out there.
Well, but you don't actually know if Kaepernick is available.
He's out there.
Okay. All right. Well, my point is, I think you look around, you try to see what else you can get, and if you can't get anything you don't think's better, then I think you offer Bradford a low-term deal. And if he doesn't take it, honestly, I would just go with Sanchez and a rookie next year, rather than give Bradford like a big deal just to bring him back, especially if you lose that playoff game.
We're 40% of the way through now. Your scenario, Elliot. He's gone through 2 of these games, 2 good games in a row. They've won both of them. So we're 40% away, and I think the Eagles right
now I wouldn't re-sign him.
Okay, the Eagles control their own destiny here, so your scenario might literally play out exactly how you just wrote it. Like they can't fool themselves, but everyone might start fooling themselves, like maybe we are.
And that's the hard part. I mean, and again, if there's one thing I think I'm learning throughout the season is it's so easy to get wrapped up in the hype and the emotions of what's going on. I mean, remember after that Green Bay game, right? all off season, everyone's like, Bradford's not that good. Then he has a good Green Bay game, and everyone's like, oh my God, he's the best thing that ever happened in the NFL. Then he sucks the majority of the season. The Eagles lose all those games, and everyone's like, fire Chip, right? So, I mean, the waves of this season have been so strong in terms of, you go from thinking that the franchise is a complete rubble, to thinking, oh my God, they have their quarterback, they're blah, blah, right? And it's going to be hard for Chip to assess what the reality is. I mean,
let's say that I'll give Chip credit over you and I. He knows what he has in Sam Bradford much more than you or I do.
Yeah.
He's a much better judge of quarterback play than we are.
Yeah, I mean, he traded Foles. Which, I mean,
I knew that he was down on Foles the middle of last year when everybody else still thought, oh my God, Foles is great. He's 14. Right. I knew then and I wrote the story that, Chip and the organization knew Foles wasn't the answer. They weren't going to give him an extension.
He's more invested in Bradford, though.
And I don't want to just heap too much praise on Chip Kelly right now, but the fact that Foles did play 8 good games with him, or whatever many games it was, and hasn't been good before him or after him, and that Bradford's playing his best with him, and you could argue that Sanchez last year played his best.
Didn't Mark Sanchez set the Eagles' single-season completion percentage record? I think he did last year, like 64, whatever it was.
Yeah,
Sanchez stinks.
Right. So my point is,
I don't think
in Chip's mind, does he think I'm not giving Sam Bradford $40 million? I can get in this system. I've seen Nick Foles play well. I've seen I can get somebody else, and they'll be just as good as Bradford was for less than for. Whatever.
I agree with you on that. My only counter is at a certain point, you just got to have the same guy. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. But maybe that'll be the guy. Maybe that's whoever the next guy is the guy. I don't know. It's a. I'm glad I can just write about it and not have to really make that decision because it's going to be a tough one.
It's funny because we're talking about a 2-game winning streak here. They control their own destiny, tied at least for first place with at least the Redskins at this point as we record the podcast. But this is kind of the underlying thing underneath the Eagles is the quarterback, the future, Bradford. For now, for these 2 games, things have worked out well. I want to ask you guys before we.
Wait, can I say one thing? Then we'll wrap up. All right, I'm going to tell you guys what Sam Bradford's quarterback rating for the season is, and then off of that, I want you to guess what Sanchez's was in his games. All right, Bradford's was 82.9 on the season. Do you want to guess what Sanchez's was?
I'm going to guess. I mean, last year they're
just off these games, just off this season.
Okay,
what his quarterback rating was this season?
I don't know, 83, 84,
80. So I just think we should all put in perspective that we're talking like Sanchez played terrible. Like you can't even bring him back. 2 points is the difference between there. I'm not saying Bradford's better. I'm just saying let's remember that on the season, it's not like Bradford's putting up these amazing numbers. And I think that's something.
No, but you know what? The quarterback rating, and while that's a good measure, at times, like his quarterback rating yesterday wasn't that good because of that interception. But
Well,
when
the
we all said
interception
that
happened.
wasn't his fault.
Agreed, but he also was. It's also low because he only had one touchdown.
Right.
Bradford doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns.
No.
I don't know if that's coincidence. I'd have to go back and look, but he's only got 14 touchdowns in, I don't know, 11 games, something like that.
Yeah, so he's like a 20 touchdown guy over the full season, maybe. Yeah, he doesn't throw many. I want to ask you guys about and the Bradford. I mean, we'll talk Bradford a lot as these weeks go on. He's going to be a major factor in whether or not they actually pull this off and win the division. Yesterday, I felt, and maybe even a little bit in the Patriot game, but certainly yesterday, the unsung heroes, the guys we don't usually talk about, it seemed like it was really a team win. From Reynolds at the end with the interception, the special teams again. I thought Donnie Jones kind of bailed Bradford out of that weird sack he took right for the 2-minute warning with a really good punt afterwards. For each of you, give me someone who, I mean, normally we would not talk about in a podcast. You guys might not even write about in more than a post or two that you thought, really play well or had a big impact yesterday. I thought yesterday there was a few guys that were unsung heroes that made a play or two. Mark, how about you on that?
Well, you caught me off guard with this one.
I got a good one.
Yeah,
All right, go first, Ellie.
All right, so the one I'll go with is the Mr. Fan favorite, Riley Cooper. I know he only had 28 yards, I think, receiving, but his play he made before the half where he managed to get out of bounds, stop the clock, and, get to the sideline, and the Eagles were able to get a field goal. I mean, that was big. In a game, they only ended up winning by 3 points. That's a play a lot of people will remember, but, that was huge. Chip likes to point out when his field goal kickers miss stuff and when they lose by a field goal. This was a game where they won by 3 points. It was a close game. They pulled it off. And little plays like that were really the difference. I think Cooper's a guy who, I know he dropped that first catch of the game. That would have been a tough catch, but I think he had a strong game yesterday.
That's a good one. And then off of last week, too, because last week he had the catch on 3rd and 11 against the Patriots, and he knocked that onside kick out of bounds with the kind of the swat there. So he's had 2 weeks in a row of that.
I'm going to cop out here a little bit and not give you one guy, but I thought the offensive line, which has had a lot of its share of bad moments this year, I thought they kept, other than that bad sack at the end when Bradford should have just thrown the ball away, but he was worried about the clock at that point. I thought they gave Bradford pretty good time to throw. He didn't get hit that much at all, I don't think, during the game. And that's a Buffalo defense. Rex Ryan, he's always going after the quarterback. And against that defense, I thought, other than the 2 plays Dennis Kelly was in there and got called for holding, I thought they did okay. I thought they were. And I don't think anybody's really talking. You're looking for unsung. I don't think anybody's really talking about offensive linemen today with everything else that happened. But I thought a group that hasn't played well for the most part all year played one of their better games against a pretty good front.
Yeah, it is never easy to play Rex Ryan front because, like you said, they're always throwing something different and new out there, and they're difficult to block. So, all right, as we move forward here, 3 games left as we record this podcast. Sunday Night Football against the Cardinals and the 2 NFC East games, home for the Redskins, at the Giants. So we know now with the different scenarios that start playing themselves out and the scenarios that we get the answers to, that if the Eagles win their final 2 games, so this Arizona game really in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter that much as of now. If they beat the Redskins at home, they beat the Giants on the road, they will win the NFC East. So the question I have for you guys to kind of end this show on this episode is, are the Eagles the NFC East favorite now? I mean, the scenario says they control their own destiny, but in
they
your
all
mind,
control their own destiny. So that doesn't really matter.
Right. So are they the favorite?
Giants to the Redskins do.
Are they the favorite?
I think they are, but if you're the Redskins, you can certainly make the case.
Yeah, I think the Redskins are the favorite.
I mean, just because the Redskins beat the Eagles, so if you're the Redskins, you're saying, you know what?
They have an easier schedule too.
We control our own destiny. We got the, thinking Sam Bradford in the way. We already beat him. You know what I mean? Like, so I
tell you what, I'm not a Redskin. I've been down on the Redskins all year. I still can't believe they're even in the mix, but they showed me a whole lot Sunday, coming off a tough loss to Dallas Monday night, a short week, going on the road. Now the Bears aren't. No, this isn't. Let's not mistake the Bears for a good team, but they're not terrible. They've won some games. To go on the road where the Redskins, that were 0-5 on the road this year, 1-18 in their last 19 road games, go on the road. They jump out. The Bears come back and tie it, and you think, there's the Redskins. They're going to lose on the road again. and they won that game. That's a big, big win for that Redskin team. And if you just compare the Redskins and Eagles schedules, the Redskins play a Bills team that's now dead, the Eagles, which will be tough, obviously, and then a Cowboy team that's dead. They played 2 of their last 3 games are against dead teams. The Eagles play Arizona, which they're not without question the second best team in the conference, right? And some people think they might beat Carolina. I don't know. The Redskins, that's going to be a big fight, and the Giants, which is a big fight. So, just looking at the schedules, if I was in Las Vegas and I had to set odds right now, I think I would make the Redskins the favorite, even though I think the Eagles are going to beat them. But I think nationally, if you look at it, I think the Redskins have to be the favorite.
How about you, Elliot? Favorite in the NFC East right now?
Yeah, I said I thought it was the Eagles, even though I think the Redskins can make a case. I think the Eagles are, they're playing well. They have the Redskins game at home, which is big. They have the Giants on the road. Even the Cardinals game is at home, which I think is a huge advantage when you're playing the Cardinals. But I think it's the Eagles. I think it's the Eagles.
I think the Eagles. I agree that the Eagles are going to win it, but I think
that would make them the favorite.
Objectively, don't the Redskins have an easier schedule?
No, they do. But my point is, I think the Eagles having that Redskins game at home is a big deal.
Okay, but then they're at the Giants,
where Chip's never lost.
The Eagles are only going to be the Eagles might only be favorite one more time this year.
The Redskins
game? Chip's never lost at MetLife.
Okay,
so I'm just saying for what it's worth. And they smoked the Giants earlier this year. Here's my point: if the Eagles don't win the division, I think then you right after these 3 games they blew it.
Oh, again, I'm not. He asked me who I think is going to win it. I say the Eagles, but Joe asked who the favorite. The favorite don't always win.
Yeah,
I think if you look at this, if like I said, if I worked in Las Vegas and I had to put out odds today on who's going to win the NFC East, I think I would have to make the Redskins the favorite simply because I think they'll be favorite in 2 of their 3 games, and the Eagles will only be a favorite in 1 of their 3 games. Therefore, the Redskins would have a better record. That's all I'm saying.
It's amazing what a difference a couple weeks makes. A couple weeks ago, we're talking about the future, Chip Kelly, all that kind of stuff that Elliot brought up earlier. Now, today, we're all acknowledging they're either the favorite or they should win this thing.
That was the crazy part. They were never really out. They were never, everybody else kept losing along with them, so they were never out of it. They were never more than a game and a half back or whatever.
Right, it allowed them to stay in it. They did. They rallied, and here we are, 6-7 with 3 to play. The Eagles now, the next game coming up, Sunday Night Football against the Cardinals. I think we should
change the name of the podcast, by the way, for the last 3 weeks.
What should it be?
3 Angry Men.
Off those shirts. There you go.
Can we get ourselves our own shirts for the podcast?
Sure.
All right, if we do that, we could change the name. Mark, you bring up the shirts, you give them out, and we'll change the name.
All right.
New shirts next week, and we'll be back with a new podcast next week after the Cardinal game. Elliot, as always, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. And I just want to give a shout out to that guy from Houston that was showing us.
Oh, that's
that was
right.
Really appreciating us on Twitter this week and came to the game all the way from Houston to Philly. So
I feel like we're the podcast he follows to keep up with the Eagles from Houston, and he was at the game. He was also, I think, getting some cheesesteaks and asking us where to go in Philadelphia. So to our number 1 fan out there, thank you for listening. And obviously, thanks all of you for listening, but for that one as well. Mark, thanks for doing this, bud.
No problem, Joe. Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for listening to episode 20 of the No-Huddle Show, our Eagles podcast right here on NJ.com. Follow the show at Elliott Shore Parks, at Mark Eckel 08, at Joe Giglio Sports, and of course at the official Twitter of the show, at the No-Huddle Show on Twitter, iTunes, Stitcher, everywhere you can listen. Make sure to download us and be with us every week. We'll talk to you next week right here on NJ.com.